Hey, good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. Hey, before I get really started, I want to remind you that for the rest of the month of August 2021, pardon me, U.S. orders only. The books and material on our website are being offered at a reduced rate of 15% off on orders of $25 or more. Now, this 15% discount, by the way, does not apply to the bundles that are already discounted a significant amount. So we can't offer you 15 plus 15, we just can't do that. But on those orders that are not already discounted, okay, if you order $25 or more during the month of August 2021, U.S. orders only, we will give you a 15% discount plus free shipping, okay? We really appreciate this so very, very much. Those of you who have responded to this offer, it does help so very much. Okay, we are looking at continuing our study of the return of the absent master, Matthew chapter 25, verse 14 and following. We've been correlating this with Hebrews chapter 9. Unto those who look for him, and the word look there is from apekdekomai. Apekdeko means is those who eagerly, expectantly look for him. This is not the kind of looking of like, oh, well, okay, that'll happen one of these days. No. It is looking, expecting to see. Let me share with you a parallel concept. Different word, parallel concept. In Luke chapter 1, and this is maybe a little bit of a digression, but it's so important nonetheless. In Luke chapter 1, Zacharias, the husband of Elizabeth, the father of John the Baptizer, he was a priest. He was serving. He was offering the sacrifices. He goes into the holy place, not the most holy place, but he goes even into the holy place, and there the angel appears to him and talks to him and says he's going to have a son. Well, of course, Zechariah doesn't believe it. And so the angel says, guess what? You're not going to talk again until your son is born. Okay, so as he is in there ministering, Luke chapter 1 verse 31 tells us the people were looking for him, marveling that he spent so long a time in the holy place. Now look, it didn't take a whole long time to go in to make sure the table of showbread is all properly arranged, to make sure there's fresh showbread there, to make sure there's plenty of oil in the lampstand, to make sure that everything is exactly like it ought to be. After so long a period of time of knowing how long it took for the priest to minister in the holy place, the people, here is Zechariah is in there having this conversation with the angel, and time's up. Why is he taking so long? And they looked for him. Oh, that's from the Greek word prostakao. And once again, it means an expectant, eager, looking for. It is not an unknown expectation. It is you expect to see them. This same word is used in passages to speak of the early church looking for the coming of the Lord. Apekdekomai is, for instance, used in Philippians chapter 3, verse 20 and 21, to speak of how they were looking for the Lord to come from heaven. These two words are very, very powerful words of imminence. Apekdekomai is used in Romans chapter 8 as they looked for the coming of the Lord and the redemption of creation. So here we have Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 28, a really powerful indication. And that's why the translations render it to those who eagerly expect him or eagerly look for him. He shall appear a second time apart from sin for salvation. Okay, as I pointed out yesterday, Hebrews chapter 9 is based squarely upon Daniel chapter 9. Daniel was told, Daniel 9:24, 70 weeks are determined. Now, I read from the New King James. Different translations render it differently. Some render it to make the atonement, which I actually do prefer, by the way. But nonetheless, let me just read it in the good old King James. 70 weeks are determined for your people and your holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sin, to make reconciliation for iniquity. Now, let me point out again, ladies and gentlemen, to make the atonement, to put away sin. That is what Hebrews 9 is all about. How could anybody possibly deny this? Now, once again, I am well aware of the controversy that surrounds saying, well, the atonement was not completed at the cross. I want you to consider with me a couple of facts. In the Jewish festal calendar, there were 7 feast days. I'm not going to take the time to go over every one of them. Passover was number 1, okay? Then 3, 4 feast days, Pentecost. You have Feast of Unleavened Bread, you have Feast of Weeks, Feast of Pentecost. Then 4 months later, you have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Now, if in fact the atonement was finished at the cross, what does that mean? It means that Yom Kippur has been ripped out of its chronological context and placed on top of Passover. Now, is there some conflation between the offering of the Passover and atonement? Well, obviously so. Obviously so. But to say that this feast, the 6th feast, was completed at the time of the first feast is anachronistic. Furthermore, we just absolutely have to consider this. Yom Kippur was a 3-step process. Yes, a process. Yom Kippur involved the offering of the sacrifice. No one doubts that, correct? But Yom Kippur was not completed in typology. Pardon me. Yom Kippur was not completed even under Torah at the time of the offering of the sacrifice. So if it is argued that Yom Kippur in the antitypical fulfillment through Christ, and it was fulfilled at the cross, then Christ did not have to enter the most holy place to offer his blood. But the writer makes a point of saying he entered the most holy place to offer his blood. So the writer is absolutely not setting forth the idea that Yom Kippur in its antitypical fulfillment was completed at the offering on the cross. Christ had to enter the most holy place, heaven, which obviously did not take place at the cross. It occurred when he ascended. When he ascended, he was seated at the right hand of the Majesty on high. Hebrews chapter 1. Hebrews chapter 8, 1 and following. So as high priest, Christ not only had to offer himself as a sacrifice, but he had to take that sacrifice into the most holy place, i.e. heaven. Now here's an interesting thing. In Leviticus chapter 9, verse 21 and following, in considering the offering of the sacrifices, all of the sacrifices, we are told very emphatically that no blessing whatsoever was bestowed upon the people until when? Was it at the time of the killing of the sacrifice? Absolutely not. Was it at the time of the taking of the blood, either into the holy place or into the most holy place? Was it when the blood was offered on the golden altar in front of the veil? No. The blessing of any sacrifice, the blessing of every sacrifice, was not bestowed until the priest came out of either the holy place or the most holy place. Again, read Leviticus 9, 21 and 22. Ladies and gentlemen, the pattern there is undeniable. And so if we're going to say, if someone is going to say, look, the atonement had to be finished at the cross when Jesus died on the cross, then you're going to have to argue that the blessing of the atonement could be given from the time of the cross onward. Well, no blessings of the sacrifice of Christ, that is, salvation, they were given in promise, sealed by the Holy Spirit of promise, Ephesians 1, 12 and 13. But when was salvation, that which was purchased by the sacrifice, when was salvation to come? Hebrews 9:28, more than abundantly clear. To those who eagerly expect him, he shall appear a second time apart from sin for salvation. Now, if Christ's second coming out of the most holy place was to finish the atonement, then the atonement was not finished at the time of Passover. And if the coming of Christ out of the most holy place to bring salvation is his second coming, if it's the return of the absent master, then guess what that means? It means that the return of the absent master, the coming of Christ, quote, the second time for salvation, would be in fulfillment of the 70th week of Daniel 9, which is confined to the first century and fulfilled at the time of the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. Let me remind you of what I shared last Thursday. The writer of Hebrews says Christ would appear to those who eagerly look for him a second time apart from sin for salvation. Chapter 10, verse 1. For chapter 10, verse 1 gives us the reason why Christ would appear again the second time. Because, for the law, having present active indicative, a shadow of the good things about to come. Well, what are the good things about to come? Salvation at the second appearing of Christ out of the most holy place to complete the atonement. Now, just for fun, kicks and jollies, on tomorrow's morning musings, I'm going to share with you more proof that the 70 weeks were not fulfilled until AD 70, meaning the atonement was not consummated until AD 70, meaning that's when the Lord came. The return of the absent master was in AD 70, okay? Because I know this is highly controversial. It is all wrapped up in one bundle of interrelated concepts, motifs, and themes that cannot be divorced from one another. So, tomorrow, I'm going to be sharing with you why the 70 weeks were not fulfilled until AD 70. So I'll see you on the flip side.